I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design in Columbus, Ohio, for illustration. But my senior year, I actually started working on animation, and that kind of took me, my career, my professional career is basically mostly 2D animation. And here I am working on This is the Princess and the Frog in 2009. I was there at Full Sail. I was doing this from my house. Very traditional, pencil and paper. That's the way it's done. Here's some things that I've worked on that you might have seen. Pocahontas 2 was my first job. No credit, because I was only part-time in the studio. I did special effects and I did character cleanup. Little Mermaid 2, I did character design and prop design. Fractured Fairy Tales for Universal, done in the old Rocky and Bullwinkle style. If you guys remember those cartoons, I don't know if you guys have probably seen those. Maybe a couple of people. Harvey Birdman worked in the first episode. That gets me a lot of cred with the kids, right? Adult Swim. I worked on a show for MTV called Spy Groove that only lasted one season, but it was fun to live in New York and work on that stuff. Adam Sandler's 8 Crazy Nights. Not a good working experience. I gotta tell you, you learn from those ones, you know. Brother Bear for Disney, here in the Disney studio in what used to be called MGM, now it's just the Disney Studios. Curious George, while I was still in Full Sail, and Princess and the Frog also. So now I want to talk a little bit about paperless animation. As you know, as I've shown you, most of the stuff I used to work on was with pen and paper. But there came a time when Flash came out, maybe in the late 90s, and people kind of gravitated towards that program. And it wasn't really meant to do cartoon animation. It was just kind of meant to do maybe simple animations. But some artists kind of grabbed a hold of it. And by 2000, there was already a slew of cartoons. There was a channel called icebox.com. I don't know if you guys remember that in 2000. Had a lot of cartoons. But basically, Flash kind of opened the door for digital 2D animation. And so that combined with tablets and as Wacom makes the Intuos, the Graphire, the Cintiq, and it made it totally paperless. So you don't need a giant desk with a ton of paper and pencil. Now you can just have a Cintiq or a tablet, and your studio's right here in the box. So this is your studio. You could do ink and paint, test your animation. You could do export it. You could do deliver it to the web. You could do everything. Okay. This is the pipeline that we used. We do a lot of the animation in Flash first, and then for some of the stuff, we'll take out the Photoshop and use textures. Like we'll add textures to the background. Some of the characters will have texture, but it kind of adds a little bit more what I call production value, which means your cartoon will probably look better if you kind of add these little things. And I'll show one old one and one new one so you guys can tell the difference. And then you can use After Effects for either put effects or camera work if you want to do that type of stuff. You don't have to. You can do a lot of that stuff in Flash also. And then we use Final Cut, but you can also use Premiere now that I know a lot of people since the last Final Cut version have kind of been migrating to Premiere. You know, they're not happy with what it is, but you can use the whole Adobe, what is it called? Creative Suite to make a cartoon in your own home. So now I want to talk a little bit about Kleeman and Mike. They were created by my friend Randy Christopher. We met actually working at theme parks. He used to dress up like Peter Pan. I used to dress up as Pluto when I was a little more in line. And Randy actually started with these characters in comics. He made comics out of them. He went through FSU and published them in the school paper. And then as part of his thesis, he decided to make a game. So he made an animated game first and then decided to make shorts. And then every year, he's decided to exhibit at San Diego Comic-Con and then try to have, kind of create a little bit of buzz and sell his comic books and also show the animated shorts. Kleeman and Mike, two guys. Kleeman is the one with the pear-headed shape head. And he's the more goofy character. He's loud, obnoxious. I'm sure you have friends like that, right? Mike is the one with the hair. He's a little bit more stoic and level-headed. He kind of keeps Kleeman in check a little bit. If you can kind of tell, like their heads are almost like opposite each other. Mike's head looks like a light bulb. Then we have on the left, we have Brick, who's the sage, the wise guru, who espouses knowledge onto them. He's not very prominent in the cartoons. He's more prominent in the comic. And then we have October, the talking cat. He also skateboards and surfs, and I will show you how he does that. This is an old shot. This is how they used to look like in the comics. This is a more updated shot. This is a more modern look for them. You can tell that they look like skateboarders, right? Okay, so now I'm going to play the short for. I'm going to show you first the old short. Final film. And this short actually got into the Florida Film Festival back in 2004. And the new one actually got into the Florida Film Festival this year. So if you go to the animated shorts program, you're going to see, this is a sneak preview, actually. So here's the old one so you can tell the difference. Now, keep in mind this is made in 2004, so the animation might be a little less smooth, very flat background. So it has a cool song by an indie band called Mineral. I don't know who's into indie bands now. Yes? Okay. So here it goes. Thank you. So that's the old video. That was back in 2004. And it kind of played like a music video. You know, there wasn't much dialogue. The new one is more like a regular cartoon, and I will play that now for you.
Drop something. That dog just got a new chew toy.
Hey, whoa, look at that kickflip.
Oh, that's real mature. Good job.
Well,
I got an idea.
do all of your ideas come from Bugs Bunny cartoons?
Probably 95% of them.
It's a trap! It's a trap!
The fence is right there. Let's just run for it. We just need some sort of distraction. Oh, wait. Now's our chance. Let's go. Got it.
It's a wrap!
You guys like it? Cool. Let's talk about how we got there then. So basically, Randy, who wrote the short with his friend Andy Davis, was another surfer artist. They did this. He does the storyboard in Flash, and I can show you that. We always need pre-pro, right, guys? Pre-pro, pre-production. Do I say that in the AT? So basically, here's the PDF of the storyboards actually exported from Flash, so that you can kind of follow the short. And he kind of planned it out. As you can see, you could reuse shots. It's really easy to do, and actually helps in the pipeline because then from the story, if the storyboards are in Flash already, we can actually go and start animating. So I'm going to wait till Flash loads a little bit. And let's go to 75 maybe. Maybe not. 50. And he kind of set them up where every frame is basically showed in the storyboard, okay? And then from then, we could grab certain scenes, like, for example, this is a whole scene because it kind of involves, like, the ramp, right? Let me go back to the beginning. This whole, part in the ramp is actually a whole scene, so he could kind of grab that chunk and then assign it to an animator, and then the animator can kind of time it out. And later on, we build an animatic. And an animatic is basically taking the storyboards but timing them out. Like after the storyboards are done, usually they'll record the voices before you start animating. So, for example, this right here is just a rough cut of some of the animation. It's not totally done. As you can see, it's very choppy. The drawings are not, fully done or painted. This hot dog guy, shredding it up. Shaka guy. And so this way he can kind of time it out a little bit better so that the cartoon has a little bit more timing and flow, okay? So we can stop that. And also we start designing. We start designing the characters. Everybody gets a sheet like this with how to draw the characters. I'll show you. For example, here he's too tall. Here he's too short. He should be two and about, 2.5 heads tall. So these are kind of guidelines on how to draw the character. That's Kleeman. That's Mike. Like Mike in this, for example, he had no shirt. He had a shirt tail on the back, like Chris and Hosoi. Any old school skaters? No Chris and Hosoi? All right. So, and then he had what made it really hard is like one of the shoes had duct tape on it. So we have to always kind of keep in mind, okay, this shoe has to have duct tape on it, the other one can't. How to draw hands. Hands are hard. I know you guys probably know, right? So I made you do contour hands, right? DAT. And then the dog. The dog. Here was a concept drawing by the co-writer and the color stylist Andy Davis. I did a bunch of sketches for just regular dogs, but they ended up wanting the dog to be like a Vietnam vet, and so they put military boots on him, an eye patch, a bandana, which we put camouflage texture on. So those are character designs. It's my keynote. Textures in the with the dog in the background were made in actually, let me show you. QuickTime, let me open Backyard Jam. And maybe you guys kind of noticed the ramp has wood texture. And that kind of brings up a little bit more of what we call production value. We kind of were talking about it, right? The grass also has a little bit of texture. Let me see if I can get to it. A shot with the grass. You guys can tell right here. Let me get a shot with the dog. Some of the fence also has a little bit of texture. I don't know if you guys can tell from that shot. And that was brought in from Photoshop. So, and here the dog. When we start seeing the dog, his bandana has camouflage. The entire line work was actually redone in Photoshop so you could get a rougher texture on them because, Flash gives you this clean vector line, right? Let me see, anything else we did texture? That's probably it. Beards. Beards are always cool. Does this look like Tom Busby to you guys? What do you think? He's my buddy. Okay. The animation, we decided, I know you guys have probably seen a lot of Flash animation by now. You guys kind of grew up with it probably, right? A lot of animation in Flash is done in a puppet style where you kind of cut out parts and then you kind of move those parts almost like a puppet. So it gives you a little bit stiffer style, which is not bad. I love shows like South Park. And that's not a bad thing, But for this short, we try to get a little bit smoother animation. So we try to do what animate in what we call 2s and 3s. And that means 2s just means that you have a drawing every other frame. And that's almost like what feature animation does. They try to have every new drawing for every other frame. 3s just means for every third frame, you get a new drawing, okay? So we decided to not do puppeting, no limit or limit. Maybe we did do a little bit, but not enough so you can see it. And if we had hard shots, we referenced. And I'm going to show you some of the animation that we referenced. Okay, so in the digging shot, when you see Kleeman kind of digging the hole before he kind of goes under the fence, I was assigned that shot, and I needed to find somebody digging, and I couldn't find a reference, so I shot my brother with my iPod Touch. Okay, and let me mute this sound. Just in case. So here's the reference shot of my brother. Basically, I made him dig just for my shot. Okay? He looks just like me, except he's skinny. People used to think we were twins when I was skinny. But so after that, I kind of took that and grabbed a few frames that I thought were the most important ones, or key frames. And then I did a post test, meaning I kind of drew those frames and put them together in Flash. So I made sure that the feet were, didn't move much. It's kind of hard. You have to hold the camera steady and all that. But once I had that, it kind of gave me, okay, now I have something to work with. Now I have some key frames that I can maybe use for the character. So then I kind of grabbed that and I made a shot. Let me see if I can, no. Okay. So basically I drew the character with the same poses. But at this point, we hadn't figured out what they were going to look like yet, what they were wearing. So Kleeman has this kind of goofy strap around his helmet. And at this point, I sent it to the director or the writer, my friend Randy. He said, "Well, it looks a little too good. He wants it a little flatter because it looks like very three-dimensional. You know, it looks like he's twisting his body. He's kind of twisting the head. It looks like he's very dimensional, and he's very tall. It actually looks like a person in a costume. You know, like if you go to a theme park and see Pluto. Basically, that's what he would look like. So, so I got some notes from him, and out of that, we got a new shot. And so I kind of grabbed what his comments were. He gave me a couple of drawings on how he wanted the animation to go. He wanted him to move forward as he kind of dug. So I just kind of grabbed that and then added some of the dialogue for Mike in the background because he's just standing back there, but he's making rude comments to Kleeman as he digs. And then lastly, we just add color to it. And then so that's the final shot, basically, right? All you need to do is add the background. And voila.
95% of them.
Do all of your ideas come from Bugs Bunny cartoons?
Now you notice that there was a lot of skateboarders. In the end of the short, and that's because Randy actually used real skateboarders to reference all the animation for the skateboarding. So, for example, this shot, to outline mode. Here's Mike shredding the ramp. Now, this is really hard to animate if you don't have reference, if you don't have anything. So he actually went to the skate park in San Diego, where he's at. I'm in Florida, so we're talking over the. Oh, you can do this over the internet. I forgot about that. With FTP servers, you know, or Dropbox or anything like that, you can basically work across the country. You don't need to be in one place as long as the communications is good. Okay, so you saw the shot of Mike kind of, you know, going up and down the ramp, and I will show you the shot of the skateboarders that he actually used, which is back here hidden. So he actually went to the San Diego skate park and shot these guys, so you could get the reference of, you know, how the body moves, how the board twists. This is like hard stuff to do. You can't just like make it up from your head, okay? So, and it's not bad. It's not bad to use reference as long as you get away from it enough so that your work still looks like art, right? It's not cheating. Disney does this all the time. So does Pixar. Pixar has a room where they actually let the animators go and tape themselves acting it out so that they can use that for their films. And so this has, you know, precedents already. Let's go back to the keynote. So reference the hard shots. You don't, you know. Now we didn't do this for every shot, obviously. You don't need to. The dog was hard to do. We didn't use a lot of reference for that. So, that we did that from our heads, and most of the character stuff, if they didn't have to, you know, do a lot of skateboarding or anything like that, we did that from our heads. And then in post, you can do camera effects, camera moves. You can add film grain, a bunch of cool stuff, like you guys saw in the end credits. See if I can pop this back up. Hi, Tom Busby. So a lot of this film grain that you guys see, some of the video effects that were done when the skateboarders come in, or that's all done in After Effects. A little film grain, a little color correction, film blowouts. Also in the end, you see like he kind of overlays some of the animation on top of the skateboarders, which looks kind of cool too. You know, he just kind of noticed that running his storyboard in one frame as a movie looked kind of cool because it was just super fast. You can run through the whole cartoon right now. You guys can see that. You know, like just experiment. It kind of makes for a cool effect, right? And then you can put the whole thing together either using, we use Final Cut, but you can use, like I said, Premiere from the Adobe Creative Suite. And actually, they recorded the audio professionally. They went to the studio because he's got connections. So, getting good audio is also a big part of your cartoon. Sound effects, he got sound effects by himself. In the beginning, you can hear people from the actual skate park just talking, like almost like the atmosphere that you hear at the skate park because he went out there and recorded himself. So a lot of this stuff, kind of helps make a good cartoon. He also had a friend in an indie band that could write songs for it. So collaboration in the end, makes your project better, I think. So, questions? That is my presentation.
Did you ever face any roadblocks or mental frustrations during all of this?
Yes, a lot. Thanks, Jordan. Part of it is I have a full-time job. As guys know, I live in the art studio. But sometimes I brought that in too. Grace knows this. that I even worked on it when I was there. Some of the harder shots, or maybe some of the frustrations the director doesn't like that shot, so you have to go back and rework. But that's just part of the game. It's like working with a client. It's you just got to give them what they need, what they want. Okay. Anybody else? Over there.
What made you guys bring General Akbar into it?
Hi, Chris. I do not know. I didn't show there was another cartoon in between the first one and this one, and he put a tiny Darth Vader in it. So I think he's just obsessed with Star Wars, but he doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to make it a full-blown Star Wars fan film. For some reason, but it's just, they thought, as you can see, there's a lot of weird stuff in it, right? Like there's an elevator next to the ramp. There's, the Vietnam veteran dog, I think it's just part of the weirdness that they want to incorporate in the short. So, and it kind of fits in the end. He gives us the best ending. It's a wrap. So, any other questions? I can barely see the audience, which is kind of good. Maybe.
Are there any? I know the jokes are pre-written, but do you have any jokes that you guys just come up with while you're animating? Like for example, the walrus that comes out of the water in the first part. Is that pre-written or is that just jokes that you come up with while animating?
Well, I think maybe he starts with an outline. Randy's very literate. He reads a lot. But I think as he's drawing, he just kind of comes up with absurd ideas, the cat surfing, but he gets distracted by a little fish, so he's going to go get it, or the big wall, seeing, oh, look, there's dolphins, there's a walrus jumping, so it's just about maybe being absurd visually, because that's kind of funny and a little bit smart, I think, it's not just relying on dirty jokes or, low humor, so. Does that answer your question? Okay. Anybody else? Hi, Helen.
Hi. So you've worked on a lot of projects, but what would you say, which one would probably be your favorite?
Oh, my favorite. You know what? Sometimes it isn't about the project itself, but I think because I think it's more about the people you work with, I think I had really had a really cool experience going to New York and working at MTV with an amazing crew. The show I didn't care that much about, but I really, really loved that experience. My first studio, the stuff where I did the Disney sequels at, was another great studio where, it's a small crew. It's almost like family, So I think those are the things you remember the most, even when the projects aren't the best, I think you kind of carry that with you. It's like, it's good memories, The people make the studio, not the work. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Anybody else? How much time we have? Are we cool? Any more questions? No? Grace, you can always ask me any question.
First of all, I'm really very proud of you, Hugo. Beautiful job.
Thank you.
Congrats. I wanted to find out regarding copyright, such as the Brahms lullaby. Is there a copyright that has to go through when they're doing something like that, using backdrop music that is established, or names, brand names like Bugs Bunny, things like that?
Haha. Here's how you can get away with it. Satire law, if you make fun of it, you're scot-free, basically. So I think as long as you don't use it in its original content or the way they're portrayed, and you kind of make it obvious that it is a joke, that this is just a copy of the character, this is not the real character, you can get away with it. So that's how we could probably put Admiral Akbar, and George Lucas is not going to sue. Well, now Disney, I guess, Oh, it comes back full circle. Look at that. So, the music, the first animated short, he actually asked permission from the band, so because it's more like a music video. So he actually asked the band Mineral if he could use their song, and then the guys were really cool with it. They gave him the rights to use it on the short, and he didn't really sell the short, so he wasn't really making money. He's just kind of taking it to festivals, and so at that point, the band was cool. I think some time had passed where, the song was kind of old. So they were kind of happy that somebody took interest, in kind of doing that. You guys can probably use also like royalty-free music. There's a lot of stuff on public domain that you can use. I know that through the library here, you can borrow, this is the Westar Music Library. Do you guys know? Where you can log in and kind of get royalty-free music and effects for your project. So if you have motion, and you want to incorporate some music that's already in there, or sound effects, you can get those free. You don't have to buy but making your own, I think, makes it more kind of custom made. It's more original, I guess. In the second one, he got a friend of his from an indie band called Little Dead Man from San Diego that he kind of used to play with, and then he kind of just got the main guy to just write music for here's a short, let's come up, here's my ideas, let's come up with some original for the short, and then, the guy gave him the music, and they're still collaborating. They're actually doing some stuff now for YouTube. There's a new thing called Network A Skate. Do you guys know about that? So YouTube is actually doing channels now where you can actually, they're getting people to kind of come up with content, original content, and put it on YouTube. Now, I've kind of read that some of the contracts are a little bit shady, so if you do answer some of that, please have a lawyer or your IPL instructor take a good look at it, just in case, because you never know. Some guys have gotten screwed from some of those deals, so just be careful wherever you sign the dotted line. Okay? Yes?
Two more brief questions. The other one had to do with Brahms' lullaby itself, because that's an established classical piece. So how is that allowed or accepted to be played within it without copyright? Or
if it's the performance is what's without copyright, not the actual music, So if somebody else plays it, that performance, if the guy sells it, he could sell it, without maybe getting into too much trouble.
percentage of the pre-production involved a lot of research?
Well, he kind of knows the characters, and Randy's a skater himself. His senior year, he built a ramp inside of his art studio, basically. So people would just go in there and skate all day, basically. So I think he has, firsthand knowledge of skateboarding and his characters. Some of the stuff you have to research, like how a cat moves, how a dog moves, how does a dog move with military boots on, that looks weird, So, if it's cartoony enough, I think you can get away from some of the reference or some of the things that you might need. But you always need reference. You always need some, there's something you can't draw or you can't make out of your head, so you have to go and research it, which is very important for Grace. And me. Pre-production. Do it. Just do it. Just do it. Come on. Anybody else? Dimas?
All right, I got 2 questions, actually. The first one is, you mentioned in the 2004 clip that it's different, and it is noticeably different. But is it so much the technology, or I also noticed that you had a third of the staff working on it as opposed to the newer one? And the second question is it possible to achieve what we just saw with the amount of people that you had working on the 2004 one?
Well, the 2004, I think he just, I think by the time he done the game by himself, a Flash game, he just wanted to make a music short, but then I think he needed more animation knowledge, so he tapped into me for that. And then I didn't know Flash at the time, so he's like, well, I can teach you Flash if you can teach me more animation. And so we kind of did an exchange where, that's the way I learned Flash. He learned it first. He just kind of passed on what he knew through me, and then I helped him out with kind of try to get better animation. It's not so much maybe the program's limitations, because I think you could do feature animation quality in Flash if you wanted to. It's just not what the program is made for, And sometimes your files just probably get huge if you're trying to do something like that. But it is possible to do it. And I think we could have done the same work with maybe just 2 people on the new one. Is that what you mean for the second question? Uh-huh. With just 2 people? We could have done that short. It's just, I think, for the amount of time that he wanted it done in, that's when you just throw more people in the project, okay? So we had more people, so we could get it done in a shorter amount of time. We could have done the same short, but it probably would have taken us, instead of 4 months, a year, okay? So it's just, you could do it, it just takes a longer amount of time. Anybody else?
All right, let's give one more big round of applause for Hugo.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it.